Hey, my name is Jones and I'm here with Dana in beautiful East Tennessee at the Bell residence. And over the next several days, we're going to teach you how to build your very own DIY semi-in-ground swimming pool kit from poolwarehouse.com.
We're going to be covering everything from shipping and receiving to excavation, looking at your dig sheets, panel layouts, putting the liner in, all the way till you're swimming in your brand new pool.
It's a lot of work, so let's get going.
Here we go.
Now, one of the most important parts of this whole process is selecting where you want your pool to live. That's going to be really important. It's your backyard. Now, we've gone ahead and worked out with Nathan, and he's kind of laid out the direction that he wants this pool to go in, but there's a couple things you want to think about before you start to dig.
One of those really important factors is making sure you have adequate space. That's going to be extremely important. Also, checking with your city, county codes, making sure all those are clear. Mark your septic tanks, your water lines, your electrical lines. Those are all going to be extremely important factors in this entire process.
And you can actually call 811 and they'll come out and mark those lines for you. That way you don't accidentally break something or hurt yourself when you're trying to excavate. Now, we already have the dig sheets for this pool, and this is a 14 by 28 Grecian. So what we're going to go ahead and do now is start to mark out the corners and start to find where we're going to consider our level, where we're going to dig down to and start that kind of a flat area where we're going to assemble our panels. Okay, now that we figured out where the pool is going to go, we're going to establish a benchmark location to start the excavation process. So we're going to look for the lowest point in the backyard. Now, you will need a level, and this is pretty easy to get. You can buy one at a hardware store. They're pretty accessible nowadays for a couple $100s. So what we're going to do is try to find the lowest spot where they want the pool, and that appears to be right here. Now we're going to go ahead and mark this location, and then we're going to go down another 12 inches. And from there, that is going to be our baseline for the entire grade of the pool. So we're definitely going to go down 12 more inches from the lowest spot in the backyard where the pool is going to be located. All right, I think it looks good. All right, so we've got all the pallets offloaded, and we're going to go ahead and start going through and looking for any damage. Now, what we do want to know is when the pallets leave the warehouse, they're all labeled. So we've got an SO number here, we've got fragile stickers. Definitely make sure that stuff is still attached. It's going to be an indicator if anything has happened to your shipment while in transit. Now, another one of the things we want to know is looking at the bottoms of the pallet. We want you to check for any damage to the corners where a fork truck may have nicked something. And Dana, kind of tell us what happens if something is damaged in transit.
So one of the things you need to do, if you notice anything that's damaged, please take a picture of it. That's going to help us go a long way in making sure we get things fixed. Also mark that on your bill of lading that something was damaged. And then contact Pool Warehouse so that we can get our great customer service team to help you guys through this process so we can get you the right products, good as new right away. Now that we've taken the shrink wrap off of this pallet, we're going to want to go through our packing list to make sure that we have everything that we need on our order. You can see that we clearly have our Aqua Genie here, we have our filter, we have sand, and you're going to want to make sure that everything that is on your order is listed on this packing list. Jones is looking at the dig sheets with Nathan right now, so let's check in with them to see what this process is looking like.
So we've got the pool laid out.
Hey guys, what's going on?
Hey, so we've gone ahead and got the pool laid out. Now what we've done is laid out a complete 14 by 28 box. We're gonna come back later and we're gonna lay out those diagonal corners, but first we wanna get the 1428 box laid out, and we're gonna spray paint our corners, and then we're gonna go ahead and mark our overdig. Now don't forget, you have to go an extra 3 feet out around the pool for your overdig area, and we'll show you that as well. If you wanna go ahead and mark that back corner, we'll get going. Okay, now it looks like Nathan is going ahead and he is spray painting out the Grecian corners. If you remember, this is a Grecian 1428, so we do have that square box laid out, but we do want to also mark those Grecian diagonal corners. So all he's done is pulled a tape measure 4 feet in each direction. Let me hold that for him. And now we have clean, clearly marked diagonal corners. But don't forget, you still have to go 3 feet out around your perimeter of the pool for your overdig. But I think that's about it. Now we're ready for excavation. Okay, now we've reached our final grade level, and we've actually outsourced the excavation part. Now, a lot of our customers will have a father that has a backhoe or a friend that has a mini excavator and they'll borrow that to do their own excavation. If you don't have that, you can always outsource the excavation part of the project and hire somebody that actually is really good at running a mini excavator, and that will speed up the whole process. But you do want to make sure that you're checking that you're at your 0 level throughout this whole process, just to make sure you're at your grade level. It looks like we're good to go to keep digging, so let's go. Hey, we're kind of going over the dig sheets, and really it's important to hold on to these once you get your order, because this is the panel layout and the finished dimensions of your pool. So on the first page, we're looking at our Aqua Genie panel, which is our skimmer panel. So we're gonna go skimmer, brace, 3-foot panel, 4-foot panel. We're gonna kind of work our way around. It's a very intuitive and easy to understand. It goes panel, brace, all the way around. So definitely hold on to your panel layout. The second page is the finished dimensions of the pool and kind of shows the depth of the pool, the length and the width of the pool.
Now, Jones, why is it showing 50 inches here, not 52 like it says?
Okay, so that's a great question that people sometimes forget to ask, but if you'll take a look, it says 4 foot 2 inches, which is 50 inches. That's the finished dimension of your pool. So the reason for that is you've got a 52-inch panel, but you're gonna come back with 2 inches of pool-based material. So that's gonna leave a 50-inch finished dimension. So just think 52-inch panel, 2 inches of poolcrete, that leaves a 4 foot 2 or 50-inch finished dimension. And that should be flat all the way across, which is a pretty easy excavation to do because it is a flat bottom. So you have to make sure you remember to follow the dig sheets. You want a 50-inch flat bottom, and you wanna make sure you do the panel layout correctly. If not, your liner won't fit. So make sure you follow these and hold on to these. If you have questions about excavation, don't hesitate to give us a call. Okay, we're finally done with the excavation and it's really starting to look great. What do you think so far, Nathan?
I think it's going to look really good once we get it complete.
Absolutely. Now we're down to our 52-inch depth. So if you remember, we found our lowest spot and we went down to 52 inches. So that way we have an even, nice grade all the way across. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna start here and we're gonna assemble our step. Everything is gonna happen from that steel step and we're gonna assemble out from around that. And as you can see, you've got side panels for your step and then you've got the risers and the treads on the inside. Now, the panels are actually pretty cleverly marked. There's an R and an L on each panel. Now, if you're looking at that R, it looks backwards, but if you look at the back side of the panel, the R is actually normal and is the right direction. And so when you're looking at the right and the left, you're gonna look at it if you're standing in the pool looking at the steps. So your right panel, which is marked R, will be on your right, and your left panel will be on your left, but that's from inside the pool looking at the step. And just remember, these are marked. And if you flip the panel and look at the back side, you can see the R and the L are correctly positioned in the right direction. We're assembling the step, tread, and riser, and we're attaching those to the wall panels that we showed you a minute ago that were left and right. And so those are pretty easy to attach. Now, let me get this lined up a little bit. JT, will you hold that for me? Yeah. Now we've got JT out here, and you may have seen him in past videos, but he is definitely an expert on helping us assemble steps. It doesn't take a lot of work, but you do want to get this part right. JT, do you want to tell them how the emboss system worked?
So what we're doing here, if you can see this gap, we're creating about a 1/4 inch gap, and that's from all these dimples on the panel. You'll notice the 3 dimples right above this large dimple. Those 3 dimples are embossed there for the liner receiver bead to go into when you're putting your liner in.
Yeah, that's a great point. The back of the liner actually has a little bit of a bead or a track that's been sealed on the back side, and that track will just slip down in here and it just holds it in place until water sets on top of the liner. But a very ingenious way to get your liner in place and to fit perfectly. All right, thank you, buddy.
One thing that I want to point out after we got this first tread in place is you want to slide everything up and line it up with your string right here to make sure that your pool is square. So we've already gone ahead, lined everything up with the string on the first tread, and we're getting ready to install this next tread.
You ready for it?
Yeah.
Hey Nathan, help me grab that. Now a neat thing to note is that these are actually all already numbered for you. So JT, let's flip this up real quick just so they can see.
Okay.
And Nathan, if you'll notice, this is numbered with a 6, and we also have a 5 down here. So this goes 5, 6, and on our drawing, it also goes 5 and 6. So the drawing helps you walk through the different pieces that you have to assemble. And now we'll go ahead and set this in place.
All right, and if you notice, I've got this punch right here.
JT, where can we get one of those if we need them?
This is available at pretty much any hardware store. So it's a steel punch, and I'm going to use this to line up our holes on the step to make it much simpler for installation. So I'm going to slide this into this hole and through this hole. I'm going to put another one on the other side. We're going to tilt the step up, and then we'll start bolting it all together.
Let's do that.
Before, when we talked about the little embossed bumps on the treads and risers, I want to point that out also right here. So you have your tread, your riser, and then right in here you've got this little gap where all of these little embossed notches are. That is for your Hydra specific liner. This is a Hydra pool, so they have this really unique system. It's super, super easy. You don't have to worry about rod pockets and all that junk. Can't stand rod pockets. So they have really done a great job in engineering this design so that your liner on the back seat has a receiver bead, and it just goes right inside here super nicely for great ease of installation.
So if you can notice, we've gone ahead and spray painted out our box again on the final excavation here. And another neat thing we've done is we've staked rebar into the ground. Now that's not required, but I love to do it because it gives you a good place to push the panels up against. And what you don't want to do is to set all your panels and push them past your string or push them past your orange spray painted line. So if you want to, every 6 or 8 feet, throw down a stick of rebar. That way when you're setting your panels, you can push them up against that, but that's a hard stop so you don't go too far. We're gonna come back after all the panels are set and make sure everything is square and level, but this will help speed that process along. We're setting the panels around the perimeter of the pool, and it's really neat to note that each panel is also labeled at the top. Now this one is a HPSH 103P. I know that doesn't mean anything to you, but the 103 indicates that it's a 3-foot panel. And if you'll notice on your sheet, we've got 3-foot panels, 4-foot panels, 1 foot. If you'll line that up with the 103, that's a 3-foot. A 104 would be a 4-foot. A 105 would be a 5, and so on. So it really is helpful to make sure you're looking at those labels and you're looking at your drawing. Hey, Nathan, do you guys understand how to do that part yet?
Yeah, Jones, it's funny you mentioned that because we were just going over the panels. We've got them all laid out on the ground here, and I was discussing with Nathan, the 320 panels are over here on the right-hand side of the pool, and just behind us, we've got the Aqua Genie panel that is already cut out and ready to go. It's very important that you go through all of these and make sure that you have your panels in place. You don't want to put one in the wrong place. So we're gonna go ahead and start bolting all of this stuff together and have us a structure here soon.
Now we're setting the corners of the Grecian pool, and if you'll notice, because it is Grecian, it's got this 45-degree wedge that goes here, and that's gonna help us create that diagonal shape that we're trying to attain. And so JT's gonna go ahead and start bolting together the brace, the 45-degree wedge, and this wedge is labeled on the backside and on your drawing, and kind of connecting all those together.
Yeah. Do you have that punch?
Got it.
Oh, perfect.
We're still using our punch we got from the hardware store. Very handy tool.
Yeah, and the reason we're using it to line up these holes here. So I'm gonna slide it through, lift it, whatever I need to do to get the bolts in just right so I can tighten these nuts down.
And to note, we're lining up the wedge with the panel and with the brace. So we have 3 metal components that we're all lining up together. We're gonna slide a bolt through, and once we get all those in place, then we'll move on to the next. Looks good. All right, I think we need to take out a little bit right in there for the brace.
So when you're building your pool, the bracing system on the back side of this has to come out a certain distance. And when you're laying your braces down, you might see there's some areas where it's lifted up just a little bit where you might have to remove some dirt. So that's what we are doing now.
So now we're checking the level of the panels as we set them. So we're gonna go panel brace all the way around, but we're gonna stop and check the level on every panel. We're gonna do that again once we get them all set, but it's a lot easier to stop. And for example, if you have too much dirt, take some away before you get all the way around and check your level again. So it's a lot easier to do that now. That looks like they only need to remove a small amount. Now, if we had to add dirt back, if it was too low, you don't want to actually use dirt. We don't recommend using any virgin soil. We would want you to use some type of non-biodegradable material like a paver, perhaps a shingles, anything that won't corrode over time underground. So definitely grab some shingles, grab a couple paver blocks and have those on hand in case you need to raise that panel up a little bit. But we're going to go around and keep checking each one as we go. Perfect.
Hey, Nathan.
Yeah.
You sure we got the right panel there?
Yes, I believe so. We have the HPSH 104 inlet panel here.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
What we're doing is we're making sure that we got the right panels in place. It's super easy to get ahead of yourself and say if we put the incorrect panel here and kept on going, we're gonna have the wrong panel in place. So it's important that you go through and you double check every single panel while you're moving along and working.
All right, so we've got all the panels level, and you might want to get a magnetic level. They're great, especially if you're going to check to see if the face of your panel is plumb, so we're going to check that as well. And that could stand to go back just a hair. Now, the easiest way to get your panels plumb, once you have them set, is by using your stakes, which we'll show you how to do that in a minute. That goes in the back of the brace, and rebar that's provided. And there's a hole in the back that this goes into, and that really helps you pin that panel exactly where it needs to be so that it's perfectly plumb. And now that it's level, all we need to do is plumb it and we're ready to go. So we'll show you how to put the stakes and the rebar in now. So on the back of the brace, it's already been punched out to receive the stake, so it fits in there perfectly. And Nathan's gonna kind of show you how that fits in. And you're gonna hammer all the way down until you can line up. And he's checking to make sure that panel's plumb because we're pinning this in place. We're gonna get this fixed for the concrete. Perfect. Here's your bolt and here's your washer. Now that the brace has been pushed down all the way, he hammered it to the first spot where you can put in your bolt. Now you could go down further if you need to, but depending on how tough the soil is, you may only be able to get down to the first bolt hole, but you definitely want to run your bolt, want to pin it in place, and we're locking this all down so that it's perfectly plumb and level until we pour our concrete collar. Once we pour that 12-inch concrete collar, everything's going to be locked in place, so you really don't have to worry about it after that, but until then, you definitely want to make sure it's plumb and level. Now, he's going to go ahead and stick rebar in these little holes that are punched out in the bottom as well, and that's just added support to pin that panel in place so that it doesn't move until you've poured that collar.
All right, what we're doing now, and just a pro tip for you guys, is we're checking the straightness of the walls. So what we're doing is if you take a string from one length to the other side of the length, you can look down the string to see how straight your walls are. Now we have a spot just a little bit that probably needs to come in just about a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch. We're gonna fix that just to make sure everything looks great. We did this earlier on the bottom with some rebar and some string as well, just to make sure we stayed as straight as possible. So we're gonna fix this straightness and we're gonna keep moving forward with this before the concrete gets here.
All right, Dan, you got it pulled tight?
Got it pulled tight?
All right, so the next step is to make sure that the pool is square and that we have everything set perfectly. We've already hammered in a couple braces, but we're just getting the panel set. Before we lock all those in and pour our backfill of concrete, make sure everything is perfectly square. So what you're gonna wanna do is use your dig sheet and your panel layout, check the length, check the width, and then you're gonna pull a tape from the corners, and those dimensions just need to be the same. And if those dimensions are the same, then you know your pool is square. Dana, how are we looking down there?
Same as the other corner.
Perfect, let's go ahead and start hammering those braces in before the concrete comes.
Sounds good?
All right. We're about to attach the coping to the top of the panel, and we have several different profiles that I want to show you. This first profile is in gray, and it also comes in brown as well, so you can get a nice gray color or a nice brown color. But on this gray coping, you've got an opening on the back side, and it's fitted for a deck board, so it's a great slot so you can slide a deck board in. This is a semi-in-ground pool, and if you wanted to put a deck around it, you could easily do that with this particular coping. It's a great feature, and it's got a nice lip here too that catches on the top of the steel panel so it doesn't flip back over before you get it screwed on. Now, if you don't want to build a deck around it, we do have an option with a closed profile as well. So it's completely closed, there's no open backing, and if you don't want to put a deck around it, this would be easy to install as well. And I have a piece here that we've gone ahead and put a deck board in. I don't know, check that out. It fits really nicely in there. We'll kind of slide it down as well and show you how that marries up. And so you can see how they would marry up. Now these are two different colors obviously, but we do have gray and kind of a taupey brown color to pick from. And there's actually a cover that covers the top of the parting line. So nobody wants to see that parting line. This looks great. The cap comes with it, and that kind of hides the parting line from where they connect. But JT, you want to go ahead and screw down a piece for us?
Yeah, we'll get started on that.
All right.
So we're going to use a 1/2-inch drill here, bit. I'm going to put a hole in the very top. So you definitely don't want to go all the way through. We're just putting a hole up top so that we can expose an area to drive our tech screws right down in there. And you're probably wondering, well, I'm going to have a nice hole in my coping, but we have these beautiful little plugs. I've thought of everything. So we're going to take these nice little plugs, clip them down to hide that hole. Now, when you put these holes in, you're going to go approximately every 2 feet.
And now he'll grab a tech screw next and go right inside of that hole and pin it straight to the top of the panel.
All right, that's in there. Now we'll take our little plug and hide that hole.
We're cutting the coping for this pool. The tool you're going to want to use for this project is a miter saw. It's going to make sure you get your angles right. It's going to give you nice clean cuts. Because we're doing a Grecian pool, you're going to want to make sure these corners are set at 22.5. That way everything lines up, everything looks good, and your pool is going to look great.
Now, while JT and Dana are finishing the coping, Nathan and I are going ahead and making sure that there's a bolt in every hole along every brace. Now, that's a lot of bolts, but I'm going to go through and get all those hand tight in every single hole, and Nathan's going to come back through and make sure those are locked down tight with the drill. But don't forget, put a bolt in every hole. It takes a little bit of time, but it makes sure everything's locked in perfectly. Now, as we showed you a few minutes ago, we've already got all the panels plumb and level. We've got all the stakes hammered down into the braces. Now we're filling that over dig area with concrete. Now that's about a 3-foot wide area for your overdig, and it's gonna be about 12 inches deep. So don't forget to work out all the air pockets, smooth that out, make sure you cover the top of all those braces, and we're gonna work that all the way around the pool. So let's keep going. All right, we've got about 12 inches of concrete around the perimeter of the pool now, covering up the tops of those stakes, keeping everything locked in. But go ahead and put at least 12. If you have more, go 24 inches if you have enough concrete. But what you definitely want to do is get that first tread and riser of your step all full of concrete. If you can go up another tread, do that, but at least lock in one tread and riser. And you're going to need to push that concrete up and under that bottom step. If you need to, grab some rubber boots, hop down in. Don't be afraid to make sure that concrete gets pushed all the way up to the front. Now we've gone ahead and taken some extra pieces from the deck that we tore down earlier, and we framed up an equipment pad. It's really a great idea to go ahead and set up an equipment pad and have it poured on the same time you're doing that concrete collar. You'll already have the truck here. It's easy to grab some 2x4s and frame up your pad. Probably want to do something maybe 3x5, 3x8, 4x8. Depends on if you have a heater. If you don't have a heater, obviously it doesn't have to be as big, but definitely give us a call if you have questions about your equipment pad size. A good idea though to go ahead and pour this while the concrete truck is here. Now we almost have all the coping finished. We just have to finish up around the step, and we'll go ahead and knock that out in a few minutes. But we're gonna go ahead and start putting down the F-track.
The F-track is your vinyl liner retainer. It is literally the track that's going to house the bead for your liner in this channel. We're going to butt it up next to the coping, and then we are going to put a screw into the panel through that F-track all the way around this pool.
Now if you have Grecian corners like this one does, a really neat trick is to just make a wedge or notch out that coping right in that 45-degree corner. That way you can create a slight bend, fits really nicely in the corner. And Dana's gonna go ahead and start pinning it in place. And let me get it locked in there for you, Dana. And we'll work that down every 12 inches or so. He's gonna go ahead and put in another screw, but take note, if you wanna have really nice finished corners, just wedge out that little notch right there in your F channel. Looks good. All right, I'm gonna come behind Dana and go ahead and start covering all these screw heads with some duct tape. You wanna do that to ensure that none of these heads actually have sharp burrs or anything that could snag onto the liner while you're installing that. So go ahead and tape over all the tops of those around the whole perimeter of the pool, and we'll show you what that looks like when we're done. Now we're getting ready to do the floor of the pool, and we're gonna use Poolcrete or pool base. Now what we have today is Palmetto pool base. It's a premix. This is what we use on every pool. It's got cement and vermiculite and perlite all already pre-mixed in there together. Definitely a premium product, and you wanna make sure you go 2 inches thick. We're gonna mix them up. We have a mixer on site. Definitely wanna do that unless you wanna mix by hand, but most pools need about 30 to 50 bags, so you might wanna get a mixer. Regardless, 2 inches thick. We're gonna mix some up and show you how that goes down. So grab your trowels and let's go. All right, now we're finishing the floor of the pool, and it's really starting to look fantastic. It's got a nice smooth finish when you're done. Definitely the skilled part of this is using the trowel. You want to make sure that if you don't know how to do that, hire somebody to do it. Another great tip is to mark on your panels using a blue chalk line or any color, a 2-inch indicator. That's going to show you how high up you need to bring your pool base. You always want to go 2 inches up on that panel. It's a flat bottom pool, so it's not hard, but you do want it to be even, level, and smooth.
As you can see, we finished up the pool base yesterday. We let that dry overnight just to make sure it's nice and firm. So today we're gonna be showing you how to install the AquaGenie skimmer. We're gonna be dropping the liner. We got a busy day in front of us, so let's get going.
Next, we're gonna go into the plumbing. First thing we're gonna do is get the skimmer mounted, and this skimmer happens to be the AquaGenie skimmer. And typically this is an upgrade, but on any Hydra semi-in-ground pool that you purchase from Pool Warehouse, this thing is gonna come standard. Now I'll go over all the details of it and how it operates a little bit later, but for now, we wanna get this bad boy mounted up. What I'm doing now is I'm preparing this piece of PVC. It's an 1.5" PVC pipe, and I'm gonna use that to brace and support the AquaGenie while I'm installing it. If you notice on the bottom of the AquaGenie, we've got these 3 holes here. This is an 1.5". This is for 2-inch plumbing, and this is an 1.5" piece for this PVC to go into to support it while I'm installing it. So we're using 2-inch plumbing on this pool. So we've gone ahead and plugged the 1.5" hole. That's very important. Make sure that you do get that plugged before you start installing all of your plumbing. All right, got the AquaGenie supported, and it's time to put the spacers in now so that we can get it mounted to the wall. These spacers go in between the AquaGenie and the steel panel on the back side. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in place here, and Dana is gonna help me out on the other side and slide these screws through. Dana, here you go, buddy. All right, got that first one.
Got it. So what you're looking for is there will be 4 holes on each side of the skimmer. You're literally just going to line up these holes. You're gonna put the screws in, you're gonna go all the way around, then your AquaGenie skimmer will be installed. As we're preparing to drop our liner, one of the things we want to make sure to do is to cover up our panel joints on this pool. You're gonna use duct tape to do that. What this is going to do is make sure that it's all nice and smooth. When we get the liner in here, none of those seams are gonna show, and you're gonna have a really great finished product.
Hey guys, what I'm doing now is just going back through and making sure that we don't have any loose debris, any little rocks or pebbles, or any rough spots in the floor. We're getting ready to drop the liner, and I want to make sure it's nice and smooth and as clean as possible before we get that thing in here. It's getting really exciting around here because we are about to drop the liner in this pool. But before we do, there's a few things we have to accomplish. And one of those is installing this wall foam. Very important that you go through and get this installed just underneath the lip of the liner receiver track. So we're gonna go through, use this heavy duty spray adhesive that came with it, and start spraying this down and install this wall foam. If you also notice, I don't have my shoes on, and that's because we don't want to leave tracks in this beautiful pool floor that we laid out. One of the reasons we're installing this wall foam and why it's important is because this steel gets super hot, and on a lot of these semi-in-ground pools, you're going to have sun hitting it constantly. So it's nice to have that little bit of insulation between your liner and that steel wall. It's only going to help with the life of your liner. One of the things that you want to make sure of when you're installing this wall foam is that you don't get any wrinkles in here. Don't get in a hurry. Be patient. Try to do it as nice and neat as possible, because if you do get wrinkles in there, guess what? It's going to show up when your liner gets in that pool and the pressure of that water pushes the liner against the walls. We're also covering up those tech screws where you installed the liner receiver track from earlier. That's why we're going right underneath it. So that tape that we put over those tech screws, now we're going over the top of that with this wall foam as well. We're just finishing up the wall foam, and I'm sitting here on the steps, and if you notice, I'm cutting a slit in this wall foam in between each tread and riser. That is so we can expose the backside where we put the liner receiver bead that we talked about earlier on. So I'm going to finish cutting this up, and then I think Dana is going to help us wrap up getting this liner installed. All right. Now it says on here, place pool liner at deep end, arrow facing pool. So what we're going to do is we're going to take it into what would be considered a deep end area. We're going to take it to the end of the pool, spin this box around to where that arrow is facing the steps. Then we're going to pop that lid off and unfold the liner, because they have it folded in there in a way that will make it easy to unfold and install. You always want to remember to use gentle footsteps, nice and easy, and don't put a corner down on the floor. Be very careful, very easy. Whoa, 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 whoa. Nathan, what are you doing?
About to open the box.
No, 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 no. So I'm super glad that this just happened. You definitely don't want to do that. Do not use a knife to cut the bands on the box. You can literally tilt the box up. So help me tilt it a little bit. And we're going to slide these bands right off of here. So yeah, it would be more convenient to cut the straps with a knife, but you don't want to do that. We've had people do that before, and a knife goes in a box, and guess what? You've got a hole in a liner, and that is no good. So as soon as you open the liner box, you're going to see a piece of paper. This should be on the very top of your liner when you open the box, and it says stop. Don't do anything else until you read this. It's very important. Just take a minute. It says on there, pattern, is it correct? Dimensions, are they correct? If you've not done so already, go back and check your liner pattern here and the dimensions of your pool. Those are going to be on the box lid that we just took off. So remember, once this liner has been taken out of here and cut, it cannot be returned. You will also see your warranty paperwork on here. It explains to you how you warranty the liner and where you register your liner. Also on your paperwork, you're going to want to hang on to it because it has the serial number that is associated with this liner specifically. It doesn't belong to any other liner. Every single liner that is ordered is custom made to order, and they all have their own identifier, which is this serial number. So take this serial number, fold it up, stick it in a drawer where you keep important things. So read all of your materials that come in here. There are some nice danger warning labels that say no diving, shallow water. This is a flat bottom pool. And then you also have these nice little plastic shims that Dana will show you and point out when we're installing the liner. Helps to hold the liner receiver bead into the receiver track when you're installing it. So I think we're all getting pretty pumped, so let's go ahead and get started working on this liner. Look at that pattern. I love this liner pattern. As you start unfolding the liner, you can tell right here that I have a pretty different section from the rest of it. Well, on the back side, we have the liner receiver bead here, and that is the easy indicator that that's where it is going to go over the steps. So when you have liner over steel steps like this, when you're installing the liner, you want to start on the bottom tread. This is the material that I was talking about, and I've probably mentioned 10 times before, the liner step receiver bead. Okay, this step receiver bead is going to go inside the receiver that we pointed out when we were building the steps earlier. So be very patient here. Take your time, okay? Everybody gets excited and they try to speed up this process, but the more patience you have when taking care of these steps, the better off your liner install is going to go.
Now that we have our step bead installed for this liner, we're going to begin working our way around this pool. Now, one really important thing to note is as you're putting this liner in, you can notice here where the corner seam is. This is going to be really important that those line up with where these corners are on this Grecian style pool. Now, we did talk about these shims earlier. These are going to be extremely helpful for making sure this liner stays in, it doesn't fall out, at least till we start vacuuming the liner in, make sure everything's nice and tight. Once we put water in, we can then take these out. I'm going to slide one in right here. Really easy process, and we're going to continue working our way around this pool to get this liner in.
We got the liner in, it's all nice and tight. We did a fantastic job there. Now it's time to hit it with the vacuum. I do want to say that this is a Cyclone Pro vacuum. It's a liner vac. Most of the professional liner installers, pool builders use these. We own one, so that's why we're using it. You can get these on our website, poolwarehouse.com. They just make it a little bit easier. If you're installing multiple liners, these are great. If you're a homeowner installing this pool yourself, Shop Vac works fantastic. Another thing to note when you're getting ready to vacuum the liner, when you stick the hose down, you're going to pull a little bit of liner material out, like so, and you're going to drop your hose down inside there. One thing you don't want to do is take your hose to your vacuum and drop it all the way down to the floor. You want to leave about 3 or 4 inches before the pool floor. Now that I got the vacuum hose in, I'm going to go back and I'm going to cover up any little gaps or holes where air can escape. That's going to ensure that we get a nice, good, proper suction on this liner and get it sucked against these walls. All right, folks, this is where you make your adjustments on your liner. When you have the vacuums running and you start to see an area that might have a little bit of a wrinkle or it's pulling one direction or the other, now is the time to make your adjustments. Again, this is another place to be patient. Turn your vacuums off, go back inside, move the liner around however you see fit, and make sure you get that perfect installation of it. So once I make a few adjustments here, I'm gonna hit this vacuum again, see what we're looking like, and if I need to make more adjustments, I can do so.
Now that we've got this liner in, we've had these vacuums running for a few minutes now, we're ready for water. You're going to want to have about 4 to 6 inches of water in here before you stop the vacuums. Then you can continue filling. Nathan's going to bring the water in here. We're going to fill this thing up.
I want to show a couple of things regarding the Aqua Genie and the plumbing. We ran everything and we went with the 2-inch PVC Schedule 40 flex hose. We completely capped off the 1.5-inch hole that you have under here. So the 3 holes that we talked about, the 2-inch hole, the 1.5-inch hole, and then the support hole. So we went with the 2-inch here. If you look right up here, you see another piece of 2-inch Schedule 40 flex hose coming in. This is the return line on the Aqua Genie. So you're gonna have 2 sets of pipes coming in and out of the Aqua Genie. One is your suction line, and the front up here is your return line. That is the line where the water is gonna come back into the swimming pool and push the water down into the pool. Let's take a look inside the Aqua Genie now. If you notice on the lid, you have one side is radiused, the other side is flat. So if you put this on wrong, it's not gonna fit. So I'm gonna spin it around. Now it's nice and flush. Inside the Aqua Genie, you have the cartridge, and this holds your chlorine for the chlorine feeder design if you have a standard chlorinated pool. So you put your chlorine pucks inside the cartridge. There we go. Stick that back in. You have a little dial that is going to adjust the amount of chlorine that is going back into the swimming pool. We're going to take this out. This is the vacuum adapter. You have the skimmer basket that's going to catch all the little leaves and debris. You have a little brown box. This holds all of the screws that are gonna go onto the faceplate here in a little bit, so we'll use these here in a little while. I'm just gonna keep those there for safe keeping. Vacuum adapter fits like that. Stick your hose on it, and then you can use your manual vacuum if you have one of those, unless you got a robotic cleaner. So I'll pull that out, set this back in there, keep those screws there until we're ready to cut this liner in, which we're about ready to do. So hang tight with me. We're gonna get this faceplate on and start cutting this liner in. Now we have reached one of the most exciting but yet critical moments in this pool install. Dana is in the water. Thank goodness I'm not in here. He's gonna show us how to install these faceplates on the Aqua Genie. Dana, how's that water feeling, buddy?
This water's a little chilly.
Is it?
It's
Good.
great. It's amazing. Before you even start thinking about doing this, you're gonna wanna make sure you have at least 6 to 8 inches of water. If you have a step on your pool, get that water a couple inches over that first tread. It's really gonna help make sure that this liner is settled really well. You don't wanna cut this too early. That's really important.
We're getting ready to install the faceplate on the Aqua Genie, and I want to point out you've got 2 rectangular areas on this Aqua Genie. The top is for your suction. That's where the water goes back to the filter, filtration, comes back through, and the bottom is the return. So the water comes out of the Aqua Genie, shoots in a fan-like motion toward the bottom of the pool, hitting the opposing wall, bringing it back so that your circulation kind of moves like this and comes back kind of like a wave, rather than your standard skimmer and return system, where they just kind of rotate the water in the swimming pool. So I'm gonna hand this over to Dana, and he's gonna get this installed for us.
So one thing I want to mention is you notice that we have the gasket on the inside of this faceplate. The gasket for the outside of the Aqua Genie here is already installed. It's behind the liner. You wouldn't see it. So what we're going to do is you're going to want to feel around the liner. You're going to kind of feel where your corners are at. And if you go up from there, you can feel that first kind of big hole. The hole that's just slightly below that is where that screw hole is going to be. So JT, if you'll hand me one of those screws, we're gonna put one of those right through the faceplate. Again, we're going to find that hole right through there. And then JT, if you'll hand me the screwdriver, please. Screw that faceplate in on that side. Going to finish screwing in the rest of the faceplate all the way around. We're then going to cut the liner material, install the orifice plate. Our Aqua Genie will be installed.
All right, Nathan, you wanna go ahead and get the liner material cut out of there for us? All right, now be sure not to pull that liner material too hard. You just want to hold it in place, nice and firm. Good. Now keep in mind, Nathan put an X in this vinyl right here to cut it out, make it a little bit simpler. A lot of people do it different ways. Some people like to just go all the way around the perimeter and cut out a nice little rectangle. But when he cuts that X, gives him a little more confidence. He can hold on to a little bit of material, make sure he's getting some nice, good, clean cuts. We are almost done with the Aqua Genie installation. We just have one little step left. That is to install the orifice gasket and the orifice faceplate. So the gasket's gonna go on first, then the orifice faceplate is gonna go on second. It's very important to note that when you are installing this, you'll notice a line on the back and a line on the front. This part is facing outward, okay? On the back side, you'll notice that this shoots either downward or upward. If you install this the wrong way and install it upward, you'll have water shooting up over the top, and you don't want that. You've got to make sure that you install it to where the water is going to aim downward. So Nathan, if you will help us out here, we'll go ahead and get this thing installed. I've got your screws. We got it in the right way?
Yep.
All right, now if you notice, this faceplate sticks out a little bit from the Aqua Genie skimmer faceplate. That's perfect, that's how it's supposed to be, okay? It's not supposed to be flush mounted to it. It's gonna stick out just a little bit. Another thing to note here, Nathan, don't tighten this down too much. You want to just get it in there nice and firm. Do not over tighten this, okay? So if you start to see a little bit of bowing, back that screw out just a little bit. So now that Nathan has these screws in, the little slit that's on there, that's where you want to eyeball and make sure that you don't have it bulging in or out on the bottom or the top. You want to make sure it's nice and even. Are we good and firm in there? Screws in there good? Perfect. What we're doing now is preparing this to bond the entire pool. I'm going to start over here. You're going to do this at every single panel joint with 8-gauge copper wire. You want to make sure that you check with your local township about all of the codes and everything and what you have to do to bond. This is not grounding the pool. Your licensed electrician that you hire to do all the electrical work on the swimming pool is going to ground it. This is not grounding, bonding. So I'm going to take this every single panel joint. So here, 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 I'm going to go all the way around the perimeter of the pool. And if you notice this little notch, it's a little cutout. So I'm going to remove this bolt. I've already gone ahead and put a little circle in this one so I can remove this bolt. And you want to make sure when you put this bonding wire on that you put it on the bolt side, not the nut side, okay? Put this nut on and then I'll come back later and I'll tighten all these down. But then you can pull your wire tight, put it in that little channel, and then we're going to run to the next one. So I'm going to come on down here. Nathan, if you want to give this a whirl. All right, so Nathan, if you'll go ahead, we're going to loosen this second bolt here. So if you'll loosen that up, perfect. All right, so now you're going to feed it through the channel. Come up over the top of that bolt, come down, beautiful. Pull it tight. All right, now let me get this thing. You want to tighten this back up. Perfect. And if you need to switch the bolt around, flip the bolt around to make sure that you've got that copper wire on the right side, you can do that. It's totally fine. If you notice, all of these have the nuts all the way down through here. This one's going to be a little tight, so we're going to flip this over. That's totally fine to do. So let me tighten that back up a little bit. Okay, Nathan, go for it. All right, I'm just working on the equipment pad, getting things wrapped up here. We have the Excel 24-inch top mount sand filter that's gonna require 300 pounds of sand. That's gonna filter all the water, dirt and debris and stuff that's coming from the swimming pool. And what's gonna be moving that is the Excel variable speed pump. Once I get this taken care of, we'll slap on the multi-port valve and I'll go over all the settings with you here in just a little bit. But right now I wanna get this finished up so we can get the electrical ran and get some water moving in the swimming pool. We have the equipment pad completed. The multi-port valve is installed on the sand filter. We have all the sand in the filter. Something to note, you always want to turn your multi-port valve clockwise. Don't turn it counterclockwise, always turn it clockwise. Got our pressure gauge here, sight glass here, and that is our sand filter. So I want to show you this Excel pump that we put on here. This is the Excel variable speed pump that we put on the swimming pool. What's nice about this pump is you can take this little lid here, open it up, and it has an entire menu section here. You've got a bunch of buttons where you can set it to come on and off whenever you want, just like you do a thermostat in the house. So if you're going to be away on vacation or whatever, you can set this pump to where it will turn off and on whenever you want and need it to. Super nice pump. Love the Excel variable speed pumps. Plumbing. pipes coming out of the ground, going into the pump, into the filter. What is what? So on all these semi-in-ground swimming pools, they're gonna come with one Aqua Genie, and you're typically gonna have just one return line here. Well, we have two. We upgraded this one. It's got a return line at the steps as well. So I'm gonna show you where these pipes lead, what they do, and why they're there. We've got a line over here, it's called the suction line. It goes straight into the pump. So your pump is pulling water from your swimming pool. It's gonna go in, hit that strainer basket area in the pump, then it's gonna shoot it straight up through a piece of PVC pipe, go into the multi-port valve of your filter. It's gonna hit all the little laterals in your sand filter, and the water is gonna shoot up and come back through this return line and deliver beautiful, nice, crystal clean water to your pool. This semi-in-ground pool has two return lines. Typically, they're gonna come with just one with the Aqua Genie system, but we did upgrade this one. We added a second return to it to kind of keep debris off the steps. You can do the same thing. That's why we have two returns here. The water coming out of the filter, teed off, comes back, Aqua Genie, return, standalone return. If you also notice, the valves at the top. We got valves at the suction, valves at the return. I recommend that you put a valve on every single one of these pipes that's coming out of the ground. That way you can manipulate and control the water flow coming in and out of your swimming pool at any time. If anything happens and you need to shut one off for any reason, you can do that and still operate your swimming pool. We also have a salt system on this semi-above ground pool. That's what this contraption here is, that's plumbed in line with the return. And all your salt systems, they have to be plumbed at least a minimum of 12 inches from the filter. So this one is plumbed vertically. Water travels back through here, through the turbo cell, back into the swimming pool. If you notice on here, we've got these quick disconnect couplers. They're located on each one of the pieces of PVC going in and out of the filter. The reason we have that there is for ease of maintenance, in case you need to change that sand out, or in case you need to work on the valve, or whatever the case may be. We can just loosen those up, take that off, work on it for ease of operation. So we have three pipes essentially coming in and out of this filter. This is the return line, so the water going back to the pool. On the far side over there, we have the suction line where the pump is doing all the work. It's pulling the water from the pool, shooting it through the sand filter, go back to your pool to deliver that nice, pretty water. Now this one closest to you is the backwash line or waste line. So whenever you need to backwash that filter and it starts to get kind of nasty and dirty in there, just turn your valve over to backwash and it's gonna rush a bunch of just dirty, murky water out of there so we can keep that pool clean. All right, everybody, we are getting super excited around here. The family is getting excited because we're in the final stages of this pool build. If you notice behind me, we have our licensed electrician. I'm not doing any of those connections because I'm not a licensed electrician. Very important. I know I've reiterated this several times. Do not attempt this by yourself. Always hire a licensed electrician. So when he is finished making the connections for the salt system and the pump, we'll be ready to rock and roll, and we'll get everybody swimming soon. Everyone is getting excited. So hang tight with us. We'll show you that shortly.
Wow, guys, this pool came out great. We finally got the decks down. It looks beautiful. Now it's just me out here today. JT and Dana, special thanks to you guys for coming to help us build. They're already off to another pool site. We know you're gonna have questions about how to build a DIY semi-in-ground pool or even a full in-ground pool kit. If you have questions, feel free to give us a call Monday through Friday. We have trained reps on standby to help you answer all those questions and configure a free quote for you. If you have questions, give us a call. And remember, you can always visit us online at poolwarehouse.com.